Picture this for a moment. It's the year 950 BC. The sun sets over Jerusalem, painting the stones of the most magnificent palace the world had ever known in gold. On his throne of ivory and gold, surrounded by emeralds from Ophir and silks from Tarshish, sits a man whose wealth was so vast that silver held no value in his time. His eyes, filled with wisdom that seemed to flow from heaven itself, scan a scroll containing secrets that would forever change humanity's destiny. That man was Solomon, the wisest and most prosperous king ever recorded in history. But what you didn't know is that within those scrolls were written the exact signs, the precise keys, the unmistakable indicators of who is destined for wealth and who will remain trapped in mediocrity. Now let's transport ourselves to the year 1937 AD. In a modest Chicago office, a man of simple appearance but penetrating gaze finishes writing the last page of what would become the most influential book on wealth ever written. Napoleon Hill had just decoded, after 20 years of research with the richest men of his era, the same laws that Solomon had known 3,000 years before. Coincidence? No, my dear viewer. What you're about to discover is that the Bible and Napoleon Hill speak the same language, reveal the same truths, expose the same secrets. Only one did it through parables and proverbs, the other through testimonies and scientific studies. Here's the truth that can transform your life forever. There exist 10 clear, unmistakable, infallible signs that both the Bible and Napoleon Hill identified in every person destined for wealth. These signs don't lie, they don't fail. They're as precise as the laws of physics, as certain as each day's sunrise. Could it be that these signs are already present in your life without you noticing? Could you be one of those chosen few who possesses the mindset, heart, and spirit of abundance? Or perhaps these signs are waiting to be awakened within you, like seeds that only need the right light to flourish. In the next few minutes, we're going to unravel these ancient secrets together. We'll walk through the halls of Solomon's temple and through the offices of the magnates that Napoleon Hill studied. We'll discover the 10 signs that separate those destined for wealth from those who will remain in scarcity. But before we begin this transformative journey, I need to ask you something. If you truly believe your life deserves abundance, if you feel in your heart that you're destined for something greater, then prove it. Hit that subscribe button. Activate the notification bell, because what you're about to hear could be the turning point you've been waiting for. Every word of this message has been designed to awaken the financial giant sleeping within you. Are you ready to discover if you possess the signs of wealth? Are you prepared to look into the mirror of your soul and see what Solomon and Napoleon Hill saw in those destined for greatness? Then take a deep breath, open your mind and heart, because we're about to embark on the most important journey of your financial life. To understand the magnitude of what you're about to discover, we must first travel through time and comprehend the greatness of these two giants of human prosperity. Solomon was not an ordinary man. When God appeared to him in dreams and said, "Ask what you want me to give you," this young king didn't ask for riches, didn't ask for power, didn't ask for fame. He asked for wisdom to govern God's people. And that response was so perfect, so pure, so aligned with divine purpose, that God not only granted him the wisdom he requested, but also gave him the riches and glory he hadn't asked for. Do you understand what this means? Solomon discovered from the beginning the first and most important of all laws of abundance, that true wealth is the consequence of wisdom, not its objective. And from his throne, for 40 years, this man observed, studied, compiled, and recorded in the sacred books the exact signs he identified in every person destined for prosperity. His kingdom became the most prosperous on earth. Ships arrived from all corners of the world bringing gold, silver, spices, and precious stones. The Queen of Sheba, one of the most powerful women of her time, traveled 1,500 miles just to witness his wisdom, and after hearing him declared, "They hadn't told me half of your wisdom and prosperity." But Solomon's true wealth wasn't in his material treasures, but in his ability to decipher the spiritual and mental laws that govern abundance. Every proverb he wrote, every teaching he left, every principle he established was a piece of the divine puzzle of prosperity. Now, let's leap 3,000 years forward in time. At the dawn of the 20th century, a young journalist named Napoleon Hill received a mission that would change the course of humanity. Andrew Carnegie, the world's richest man at that time, entrusted him with a seemingly impossible task: discover the exact formula for success and wealth by studying the 500 most successful men in the United States. For 20 years, Hill interviewed Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, John D. Rockefeller, Alexander Graham Bell, and hundreds of other industry titans. He analyzed their methods, studied their mentalities, deciphered their strategies, unraveled their secrets. And what he discovered was absolutely revolutionary. All these men, without exception, possessed the same mental characteristics, the same spiritual attitudes, the same life principles. But here comes the most surprising part of all. When Hill finished compiling his discoveries, when he finally managed to reduce the laws of success to concrete principles, he realized he was describing exactly the same principles that Solomon had taught 3 millennia before. Coincidence? Impossible. Accident? No such thing exists when we speak of universal laws. What Hill had discovered, what he had scientifically proven with modern testimonies, was the perfect validation of biblical teachings about prosperity. The Bible says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit." Hill called it burning desire and definiteness of purpose. The Bible teaches, "Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over." Hill termed it going the extra mile. The Bible declares, "In an abundance of counselors there is safety." Hill defined it as mastermind alliance. Do you see the pattern? Do you understand the magnificence of this revelation? We're witnessing irrefutable confirmation that universal, immutable, eternal laws exist that govern the creation of wealth. Laws that transcend eras, cultures, religions, and geographies. Solomon discovered them through divine revelation and real experience as the most prosperous man of his time. Napoleon Hill validated them through scientific method and the testimony of the most successful men of the modern era. And now you have access to this ancient wisdom. You hold in your hands the keys that have remained hidden from the masses, but available to those who truly seek abundance with the right heart and open mind. First sign, the burning desire for wisdom. There's a moment in every future millionaire's life that marks their destiny forever. It's that precise instant when something changes within them, when a flame ignites in their soul, when an unbreakable fire is born in their heart. It's not the desire for money that marks this moment. No, it's something much deeper, much more powerful, the burning desire for wisdom. Solomon knew this. When he had the opportunity to ask God for anything, he didn't ask for riches. He asked for wisdom. And in that moment, in that transcendental decision, he sealed his destiny as the most prosperous man in history. Because he understood a truth that escapes the masses: wealth is simply the natural effect of applied wisdom. "Blessed is the one who finds wisdom," he later wrote in his Proverbs, "for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her." Do you hear that? Do you feel the depth of that revelation? Solomon isn't talking about theoretical, abstract, academic wisdom. He's talking about practical, applied wisdom that translates directly into material abundance. Wisdom that has profit and returns. Wisdom that's worth more than silver and gold because it's the source of silver and gold. Napoleon Hill called this burning desire and identified it as the absolute starting point of all fortune. Not a lukewarm desire, not a passing whim, but an inner fire that consumes all doubt, all mediocrity, all conformity. The starting point of all achievement, Hill wrote, is desire. Keep this constantly in mind. Weak desires bring weak results, just as a small fire makes a small amount of heat. But here's the key that most people don't understand. This burning desire cannot be for money itself. It must be for the wisdom that produces money, for the knowledge that generates abundance, for the understanding that builds empires. Look at the richest men Hill studied. Henry Ford didn't desire money. He ardently, desperately desired to create an automobile that any worker could afford. Thomas Edison didn't dream of fortunes. He dreamed of illuminating the entire world. John D. Rockefeller didn't fantasize about bank accounts. He fantasized about bringing cheap oil to every home in America. Do you see the pattern? All of them had a burning desire for something greater than money, for the wisdom to solve problems, for the knowledge to create solutions, for the understanding to serve humanity in a way no one had done before. The first sign that you're destined for wealth is that you feel this inner fire for learning, for growing, for understanding, for developing yourself. It's when you wake up every morning with an insatiable thirst for knowledge. It's when you go to bed every night having learned something new that brings you one step closer to your purpose. It's when you invest in your mind before anything else. Do you feel that restlessness within you? That constant hunger to know more, to be more, to create more value in the world? That irresistible impulse to become the best version of yourself? That's the first sign. That's the distinctive mark of those destined for greatness. But be careful. Don't confuse this burning desire for wisdom with mere intellectual curiosity. The wisdom that generates wealth is practical, applied, focused on solving real problems for real people. It's wisdom with purpose, knowledge with mission, understanding with application. Solomon didn't remain in his palace accumulating wisdom as a personal treasure. He applied it to make Israel the most prosperous nation in the ancient world. He used it to resolve conflicts, to establish justice, to create commercial systems that benefited everyone. His wisdom had feet, had hands, had tangible results. Similarly, if you possess this first sign, your desire for wisdom isn't satisfied with simple theories. You seek knowledge you can apply, principles you can implement, truths you can convert into value for others. Because you instinctively understand what both Solomon and Napoleon Hill taught, that true wealth is born when you use your wisdom to make life better for other people. This is the first and most fundamental of all signs. If you have it, if you feel it burning in your heart right now, then congratulations. You've taken the first step on the royal road to abundance. Second sign: the abundance mindset. There exists a vast difference between the mind of a poor person and the mind of a rich person. It's not a difference of intelligence, not a difference of education, not a difference of opportunities. It's a fundamental difference in how they perceive the world, how they interpret reality, how they process the information around them. It's the difference between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset. Solomon understood this from the first day of his reign. When God offered him anything he asked for, his response instantly revealed his abundance mindset. He didn't ask from fear, didn't ask from lack, didn't ask from limitation. He asked from the vision of an extraordinary future where his wisdom would benefit millions of people. "Give your servant, therefore, an understanding mind to govern your people," was his request. Do you hear the abundance in those words? Do you feel the expansive mentality behind that prayer? Solomon wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about an entire people. He wasn't limiting himself to his own needs. He was expanding his vision to the needs of a whole nation. And God, hearing that request that came from an abundance mindset, responded with abundance. "Behold, I now do according to your word. Behold, I give you a wise and discerning mind. I give you also what you have not asked, both riches and honor." This is an inviolable spiritual law. The universe responds to your mentality. If you think from scarcity, you receive scarcity. If you think from abundance, you receive abundance. Not because the universe is capricious, but because your mentality determines your actions, and your actions determine your results. Napoleon Hill discovered exactly the same principle when he studied the most successful men of his era. All of them, without exception, possessed what he called a consciousness of wealth. They didn't see limitations where others saw insurmountable obstacles. They didn't see problems where others saw dead ends. They didn't see competition where others saw destructive threats. Andrew Carnegie, the man who commissioned Hill for this study, began as a simple telegraph operator, earning just $35 a month. But his mentality was never that of a poor employee. From day one, he thought like a future steel magnate. He saw opportunities where others saw routine. He saw expansion where others saw survival. He saw abundance where others saw limitation. "Poverty needs no plan," Hill wrote after studying these extraordinary mentalities. "It perpetuates itself without help. But riches are the result of disciplined thoughts, disciplined habits, and disciplined plans executed with disciplined persistence." Do you see the difference? The scarcity mindset is passive, reactive, defensive. It waits for things to happen. It prepares for lack. It plans from limitation. But the abundance mindset is active, proactive, expansive. It makes things happen. It prepares for multiplication. It plans from infinite possibility. The second sign that you're destined for wealth is that your mind naturally seeks abundance instead of limitation. When you face a problem, your first instinct isn't to think of all the reasons why it can't be solved, but of all the creative ways to find a solution. When you see an opportunity, you don't immediately focus on all the risks involved, but on all the potential that could unfold. This mindset manifests in very concrete ways in your daily life. Instead of asking yourself, how can I save money? You ask, how can I generate more income? Instead of thinking, I don't have enough time, you think, how can I be more efficient with my time? Instead of saying I don't have enough resources, you say, how can I get the resources I need? Solomon wrote, the heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. But notice that first, the heart must plan the way. The universe, God, cosmic forces, whatever you want to call them, cannot establish the steps of someone who isn't planning any path. They cannot multiply the vision of someone who has no vision. They cannot expand the mentality of someone who thinks small. Henry Ford revolutionized the world because his abundance mindset led him to think, what if every American family could have their own automobile? Walt Disney created an empire because his abundance mindset drove him to ask, what if I could create a place where dreams become reality for millions of people? What's your version of that question? What if you could solve a problem that affects millions of people? What if you could create something that improves life for your entire community? What if you could build something that transcends your own existence and benefits future generations? If your mind expands when you ask those questions, if you feel excitement instead of overwhelm, if you see possibility instead of impossibility, then you possess the second sign. Your mentality is calibrated for abundance and the universe will respond accordingly. Third sign, generosity and the principle of giving. At the heart of all true wealth beats a principle that seems to contradict all human logic, that challenges all superficial understanding, that goes against every survival instinct. To receive abundance, you must first give abundance. To attract wealth, you must first sow wealth. To harvest greatly, you must first plant greatly. Solomon knew this secret from the depths of his soul. It's no coincidence that the richest man in history was also the most generous of his era. Scripture tells us that each year, in gold alone, he received 666 talents, which would equal more than $1 billion today. But what Scripture also reveals is how he used that wealth, building the most beautiful temple ever constructed, not for his personal glory, but for God's glory and his people's spiritual benefit. The generous soul will be made rich, wrote this wise king, and he who waters will also be watered himself. It's not an empty promise, not a spiritual cliché, not a philosophical theory. It's a universal law, as precise as the law of gravity, as infallible as the sunrise, as certain as the divine mathematics that govern the cosmos. There is one who scatters, yet increases more, Solomon continues in his Proverbs, and there is one who withholds more than is right, but it leads to poverty. The generous eye will be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor. Do you understand the spiritual depth of these words? Do you feel the cosmic wisdom hidden behind these principles? Solomon isn't talking about condescending charity or publicity philanthropy. He's revealing one of the fundamental laws of the universe, the law of circulation. Napoleon Hill discovered exactly the same principle when he analyzed the titans of American industry. Andrew Carnegie, despite having started as a poor immigrant, built more than 2,500 public libraries around the world. John D. Rockefeller, from his first teenage jobs, set aside a percentage of every penny he earned to help others. Henry Ford paid his workers salaries that doubled industry standards, not out of obligation, but out of conviction. The law of increasing returns, as Hill called it, establishes that the more value you give to others, the more value returns multiplied to you. But here's the key that most people don't understand. This giving must be authentic, must be genuine, must come from the heart, not from calculation. When Henry Ford decided to pay $5 a day to his workers at a time when the average wage was $2.50, he didn't do it as a marketing strategy. He did it because he genuinely believed his employees deserved to live with dignity. The result wasn't just extreme loyalty from his workers, but also the creation of a middle class that could buy the automobiles they produced. His generosity didn't just enrich him, it transformed the entire American economy. The third sign that you're destined for wealth is that you feel a natural compulsion, an irresistible internal impulse to give more than you receive, to create more value than you consume, to contribute more to society than you take from it. This compulsion isn't a painful sacrifice for you, it's a natural expression of your most authentic being. It doesn't matter what your current financial situation is. If you possess this sign, you look for ways to give within your possibilities. You give your time when you don't have money. You give your knowledge when you don't have material resources. You give your smile when you have nothing else to offer. You give your complete attention when someone needs to be heard. You give your positive energy when others are discouraged, because you intuitively understand what both Solomon and Napoleon Hill taught, that the universe is a system of perfect energy exchange. Every act of genuine generosity creates a cosmic debt that must be paid with interest. Every seed of value you plant in humanity's garden must produce a multiplied harvest. But beware of counterfeits of this principle. It's not authentic generosity to give in order to receive. It's not the divine principle of abundance to give with a calculator in hand. It's not Solomon's law to give with immediate expectation of return. The generosity that produces true wealth is that which flows naturally from an abundant heart, from an expanded vision, from genuine love for humanity. Mother Teresa never had money in the bank, but she mobilized millions of dollars in resources to help the neediest. Her authentic generosity attracted abundance not for her personal enrichment, but for the multiplication of her mission. Oprah Winfrey started from extreme poverty, but always shared her platform, her influence, her success with others, and became one of the world's richest women. Do you feel that compulsion within you? That irresistible need to contribute, to add value, to make a difference in others' lives? That inexplicable joy you feel when you give without expecting anything in return? That deep satisfaction you experience when you know you've made someone's life a little better? If the answer is yes, then you possess the third sign. Your heart is calibrated for abundance because it understands that true wealth isn't about accumulating, but about circulating. It's not about retaining, but about sharing. It's not about hoarding, but about sowing. Fourth sign, discipline and diligence in work. There's a dangerous illusion that has infected the minds of millions in this era of instant gratification. The belief that wealth can come without effort, that abundance can manifest without work, that success can be achieved without discipline. This lie has destroyed more financial dreams than any economic crisis, has buried more millionaire potential than any recession, has killed more prosperity opportunities than any natural disaster. Solomon, the richest man in history, knew this temptation to seek shortcuts to abundance very well. That's why he wrote with the authority of one who had experienced true prosperity. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes surely to poverty. Do you hear the profound wisdom in these words? Solomon isn't just talking about working hard. Any construction worker works hard. Any single mother works hard. Any student during final exams works hard. Solomon is talking about something deeper, more intelligent, more strategic. He's talking about diligence. Diligence is work with purpose. It's effort with direction. It's discipline with vision. It's the ability to maintain constant, intelligent, and focused activity toward a specific objective, regardless of distractions, regardless of temptations, regardless of obstacles that appear along the way. Go to the ant, you sluggard, Solomon continues. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. What a powerful lesson. The ant doesn't need external supervision to be diligent. It doesn't need constant motivation to be disciplined. It doesn't need immediate rewards to be persistent. It works from internal discipline, from future vision, from instinctive understanding that present work determines future abundance. Napoleon Hill identified exactly this characteristic in each of the 500 successful men he studied. He didn't find a single millionaire who had built his fortune from laziness, not a single magnate who had reached greatness from mediocrity in his work, not a single industry titan who had reached the top without iron discipline. Thomas Edison worked 18 hours a day, not because he was forced to, but because he loved what he did with such passion that work had become pleasure. Henry Ford spent years perfecting his first automobile in a small workshop behind his house, working nights after his regular job, without salary, without recognition, without guarantee of success. Andrew Carnegie started as a messenger at 13, but worked with such diligence and attention to detail that each successive boss promoted him quickly. Hill wrote, "There is no hope of success for the person who does not have a central or definite purpose in life." 98% of people don't have such a purpose, and perhaps that's why 98% of people can be classified as failures. Do you see the connection? Diligence isn't simply working a lot. It's working consistently toward a specific purpose. It's maintaining discipline even when you don't feel like it. It's persevering in excellence even when no one is watching. It's constantly refining your skills even when you're already good at what you do. The fourth sign that you're destined for wealth is that you possess this internal discipline, this natural diligence that doesn't depend on external motivation. When others need to be pushed, you push yourself. When others look for excuses to postpone, you look for reasons to advance. When others do the minimum required, you do the maximum possible. This diligence manifests in your life in very specific ways. You wake up early not because you have to, but because you want to take advantage of every hour of the day. You work on your personal development even when no one is evaluating you. You perfect your work even when it's already acceptable. You invest time in learning skills that will benefit you in the future, even though they don't give you immediate advantages. But here's the key that differentiates diligence that produces wealth from simple work addiction. Your discipline is aligned with your purpose. You don't work hard on anything. You work intelligently on the right things. You're not diligent for the sake of being diligent. You're diligent because you have a clear vision of where you're going and what you need to do to get there. Solomon built history's most magnificent temple not in a weekend, but during 7 years of meticulous, disciplined work directed toward a divine purpose. Each day, each decision, each effort was aligned with that grandiose vision. And when the temple was finished, its beauty and perfection amazed the known world. Do you have that vision that drives you to diligence? That mission that makes your work feel like purpose instead of obligation? That internal discipline that keeps you focused even when external circumstances are difficult? If you do, then you possess the fourth sign of prosperous destiny. Fifth sign, the power of words. There exists a power in the universe that's more devastating than the atomic bomb, more constructive than all the world's industrial machinery, more transformative than any technology ever invented. This power has built empires and destroyed civilizations. It has elevated beggars to the throne and precipitated kings toward ruin. It has healed broken hearts and shattered souls into 1,000 pieces. And the most extraordinary thing of all is that every human being has complete access to this power 24 hours a day, the power of words. Solomon, in his infinite wisdom, understood that words are not simply sounds that come from the mouth, are not merely symbols that transmit information, are not only communication tools. Words are creative forces, energies that mold reality, seeds that produce harvests in the physical world. "Death and life are in the power of the tongue," wrote this prosperous king, "and those who love it will eat its fruit." Do you understand the magnitude of this revelation? Your words have the power to create life or death in your financial situation, in your relationships, in your destiny, in your complete reality. "A man will be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth," Solomon continues, "and the recompense of a man's hands will be rendered to him." It's not a poetic metaphor. It's a precise spiritual law. Your words determine your level of satisfaction in life. If you speak abundance, you live abundance. If you speak scarcity, you experience scarcity. If you speak success, you attract success. If you speak failure, you manifest failure. Napoleon Hill discovered exactly the same principle when he studied the most successful minds of his era. All these men, without exception, spoke a different language than the masses. They didn't speak the language of doubt, but the language of certainty. They didn't speak the language of limitation, but the language of possibility. They didn't speak the language of the problem, but the language of the solution. Hill called it auto-suggestion and identified it as one of the most powerful principles for wealth creation. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve, was his most famous declaration. But the key is that to believe something completely, you must speak it consistently. Henry Ford used to say, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." His words didn't just reflect his mentality, they were actively creating his reality. When everyone told him his vision of an automobile for every family was impossible, he kept speaking as if it were already inevitable. And eventually, his words became the reality that transformed the world. The fifth sign that you're destined for wealth is that you've developed an acute awareness of the power of your words. You don't speak carelessly. Don't express negative thoughts as if they were entertainment. Don't participate in conversations that sow doubt or limitation in your mind. When others say it can't be done, you say, "How can it be done?" When others claim it's impossible, you declare, "It's possible, I just need to find the way." When others proclaim there's no money, you affirm, "Money flows toward ideas that create value." When others complain it's too difficult, you respond, "It's worth the effort." But your power with words goes beyond maintaining a positive attitude. You've learned to use words as tools of conscious creation. You speak about your goals as if they were already realities that are manifesting. You describe your prosperous future with such vivid details that your subconscious mind begins to work automatically to make it reality. Solomon wrote, "Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones." Your words don't just create your reality, they also heal, inspire, and elevate everyone around you. You use the power of words to build, never to destroy, to edify, never to demolish, to sow hope, never to plant despair. Napoleon Hill observed that all the successful men he studied were extraordinary communicators. They weren't necessarily eloquent speakers, but they all had the ability to articulate their vision so clearly and convincingly that others felt inspired to help them make it reality. How do you talk about your financial future? What words do you use to describe your possibilities? How do you refer to your dreams when others can hear you? If your words are aligned with the abundance you want to create, if you speak with faith instead of fear, if you use the language of possibility instead of the language of limitation, then you possess the fifth sign. Your words are planting the seeds of your prosperous future right now. Every declaration of faith is an investment in your abundant destiny. Every affirmation of possibility is a step toward the manifestation of your grandest dreams. Sixth sign, respect for time and rest. In our era of constant rushing, glorified exhaustion, and toxic productivity, there exists ancient wisdom that seems to contradict all modern philosophy of success. True wealth isn't built from frantic chaos, but from the sacred balance between focused work and restorative rest. Those destined for abundance aren't those who work more hours, but those who work the right hours with the right energy. Solomon, in all his wisdom, understood that time is the universe's most valuable resource, more precious than Ophir's gold, scarcer than the purest diamonds, more powerful than all the world's armies. But he also understood that wise time management includes not only periods of intense activity, but also moments of deep rest and quiet reflection. "To everything there is a season," he wrote in Ecclesiastes, "and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up." Do you see the depth of this wisdom? Solomon isn't talking about time management in the modern sense. He's revealing a cosmic law, that there exists a divine rhythm in the universe, a natural flow of expansion and contraction, of sowing and harvesting, of effort and recovery. Those who align with this rhythm prosper. Those who ignore it become exhausted. a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away. Napoleon Hill discovered exactly the same principle when he analyzed the habits of America's most successful men. Contrary to what many would expect, these industry titans weren't workaholics who sacrificed everything for their businesses. They were masters of balance who understood when to push hard and when to let go completely. Andrew Carnegie, despite building the world's largest steel empire, took 3-month vacations every year in Scotland. Not because he was lazy, but because he understood that his mind needed rest periods to process information, generate innovative ideas, and return with renewed energy. Thomas Edison, famous for his incredible productivity, took regular naps during the day. He had a special technique. He would sit in a comfortable chair with a steel ball in each hand, place metal plates on the floor under his hands, and allow himself to enter a state of semi-sleep. When the balls fell and made noise hitting the plates, he would wake up frequently with brilliant solutions to the problems he had been working on. The sixth sign that you're destined for wealth is that you've developed a sacred relationship with time. You don't see time as an enemy you must conquer, but as an ally you must honor. You don't try to fill every minute with frantic activity, but create intentional spaces for different types of energy. You understand that there's time for intense creativity and time for quiet reflection, time for focused execution and time for strategic planning, time for social interaction and time for restorative solitude, time for active learning and time to allow knowledge to settle in your subconscious mind. But your respect for time goes beyond simple productivity techniques. You've developed what Solomon would call wisdom of time, the ability to discern when it's the right time for each action. You know when it's time to start new projects and when it's time to complete existing ones, when it's time to take risks and when it's time to consolidate gains, when it's time to expand and when it's time to contract. This time wisdom also extends to your understanding of rest. You don't see rest as wasted time, but as investment in your future capacity. You don't feel guilty about taking breaks, but plan them strategically as part of your high-performance system. Solomon wrote, "It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he gives his beloved sleep." This isn't a promise of rewarded laziness, but a revelation that true prosperity comes when you work from wisdom and balance, not from anxiety and exhaustion. Those destined for wealth sleep well because their conscience is clear and their plans are clear. They work intensely when it's time to work and rest deeply when it's time to rest. They don't confuse being busy with being productive, nor mistake exhaustion for dedication. Do you have that wise relationship with time? That ability to discern the right moment for each action? That understanding that quality rest is as important as quality work? If your answer is yes, then you possess the sixth sign of prosperous destiny. Seventh sign, surrounding yourself with wise people. There exists an invisible but unbreakable law that governs every human being's destiny. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Your income level, your way of thinking, your habits, your beliefs, your dreams, your limitations, everything is constantly being influenced by the inner circle you've chosen for your life. This isn't a psychological theory, not a motivational concept, not a self-help idea. It's a spiritual reality that determines your financial destiny more than any other factor. Solomon, in all his wisdom, knew this secret from the depths of his soul. "He who walks with wise men will be wise," he wrote in his Proverbs, "but the companion of fools will be destroyed." This isn't a friendly suggestion, it's a prophetic warning. It's a cosmic law that fulfills itself with the precision of a Swiss watch. "Where there is no counsel, the people fall," he added, revealing another dimension of this truth, that the collective wisdom of the right people can protect you from costly mistakes, guide you toward profitable opportunities, and accelerate your path to abundance in ways you could never achieve alone. But who were Solomon's counselors? They weren't flatterers who told him what he wanted to hear. They weren't people who validated his ideas without questioning them. They weren't pleasant company who entertained him with superficial conversations. They were the wisest men from all nations, Master architects, experienced merchants, strategic military leaders, profound priests, and brilliant philosophers who came from the ends of the earth to exchange wisdom with him. Napoleon Hill called this master-mind alliance and identified it as one of the most powerful principles for wealth accumulation. After studying 500 successful men, he discovered that all of them, without exception, had intentionally surrounded themselves with people whose wisdom, experience, and connections complemented and amplified their own capabilities. Andrew Carnegie didn't build his steel empire working alone in an office. He created what he called his invisible counselors, a group of 45 brilliant men with whom he met mentally every night to discuss his plans and receive advice. But he also had a real group of advisors and partners whose combined experience was worth more than all the world's universities. Henry Ford, when he decided to create the V8 engine, gathered the country's best engineers and gave them a task they considered impossible. For months, these experts told him it was technically unfeasible, but Ford had learned the power of the mastermind. He kept bringing together brilliant minds, kept asking intelligent questions, kept seeking different perspectives, until finally the solution emerged from the group's collective intelligence. The seventh sign that you're destined for wealth is that you feel a magnetic attraction toward people who are wiser, more successful, more visionary than you. People who know more than you don't intimidate you, they inspire you. Other people's success doesn't threaten you, it motivates you. You don't avoid people who challenge you intellectually, you actively seek them out. This sign manifests in very specific ways in your life. You invest time and energy in cultivating relationships with mentors who have achieved what you want to achieve. You participate in groups, conferences, and events where you can connect with people who are playing in leagues superior to yours. You read books by authors who have built empires. You listen to podcasts by entrepreneurs who have transformed industries. You study biographies of people who have created generational wealth. But your attraction to wisdom goes beyond simply seeking useful connections. You've developed what Solomon would call hunger for wisdom, an insatiable thirst to learn from any person who has valuable knowledge to share, regardless of their social position, age, or external appearance. You understand that wisdom can come from the CEO of a multinational corporation, but also from the gardener who has observed nature's cycles for decades. It can come from the university professor with multiple doctorates, but also from the craftsman who has perfected his trade until it became art. It can come from the six-figure consultant, but also from the grandmother who has successfully raised 5 generations of her family. Napoleon Hill wrote, "No individual mind is complete by itself. All truly great minds have been formed and developed through close association with other great minds. Your financial success will be directly proportional to the quality of minds you choose to associate with. But here's the key that differentiates those destined for wealth from those who simply seek connections. You don't just seek to receive wisdom from others, but you also have something valuable to offer in return. You understand that the most powerful relationships are those where there's mutual value exchange, where both parties benefit and grow together. What kind of people do you spend most of your time with? Do they challenge you to grow or allow you to remain comfortable? Do they inspire you to dream bigger or convince you to be realistic? Do they talk about opportunities and possibilities or complain about problems and limitations? If you feel that natural attraction to wisdom, if you actively seek people who can elevate you, if you've cultivated relationships that inspire you to be the best version of yourself, then you possess the 7th sign of prosperous destiny. 8th sign, resilience in the face of adversity. On the path to true wealth, there exists a truth no one wants to hear, a reality everyone prefers to ignore, a fact most people aren't willing to accept. Adversity isn't success's enemy, it's its most powerful forge. Crises don't destroy those destined for greatness, they reveal them. Obstacles don't stop future millionaires, they transform them into stronger, wiser, more determined versions of themselves. Solomon, despite all his wealth and wisdom, didn't live a life free from adversities. His own writings reveal moments of profound anguish, periods of existential questioning, times when everything seemed to crumble around him. "A time to weep," he wrote in Ecclesiastes, recognizing that even in an abundant life there will be seasons of pain, loss, and difficulty. But what differentiated Solomon from the masses wasn't the absence of problems, but his response to problems. "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil," he declared in one of his psalms, "for you are with me." This isn't the declaration of someone who has never faced difficulties. It's the proclamation of faith from someone who has learned to find strength in the midst of the storm. "For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again," he wrote in his Proverbs, revealing one of success's most important laws. It's not the absence of falls that defines the prosperous, but their ability to rise one more time than they fall. Those destined for wealth aren't those who never fail, they're those who never give up. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years studying not only the successes of America's richest men, but also their failures, their crises, their darkest moments. And he discovered something absolutely extraordinary. All these men had experienced at least one devastating defeat that had almost destroyed their dreams completely. But instead of giving up, they had used that adversity as fuel for an even more powerful comeback. Henry Ford went bankrupt 5 times before building the automotive empire that changed the world. Each bankruptcy taught him valuable lessons he applied in his next attempt. Each failure made him wiser, more resilient, more determined. His adversity wasn't his end, it was his graduate school in business. Thomas Edison experienced more than 1,000 failures before inventing the electric light bulb. When a reporter asked him how it felt to have failed so many times, Edison replied, "I haven't failed 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb." His perspective on adversity transformed every obstacle into valuable information. The 8th sign that you're destined for wealth is that you've developed what modern psychologists call anti-fragility, the ability not only to survive adversity, but to grow stronger through it. When others see crisis, you see disguised opportunities. When others are paralyzed by fear, you're mobilized by faith. When others give up from exhaustion, you're energized by vision. This resilience manifests in very specific ways in your life. When you face rejection, instead of taking it as evidence that you should give up, you interpret it as information about how to improve your proposal. When you experience financial loss, instead of seeing it as proof that you're not destined for success, you analyze it as an expensive but valuable lesson about what not to repeat. When you go through periods of doubt and discouragement, instead of allowing those emotions to paralyze you, you recognize them as signals that you're leaving your comfort zone and growing toward your next level. When others criticize your dreams or question your vision, instead of allowing their negativity to contaminate your faith, you use their skepticism as additional motivation to prove them wrong. But your resilience goes beyond simply recovering from blows. You've developed what Solomon would call preventive wisdom, the ability to anticipate potential difficulties and prepare for them without allowing fear to paralyze your action. You understand that adversity is inevitable in any great enterprise, so instead of being surprised when it arrives, you already have systems and strategies prepared to navigate it. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit." This isn't a promise that everything will always turn out well. It's a revelation that those with the right perspective can extract value from any experience, no matter how painful it may be in the moment. How do you respond when things don't go as expected? What do you do when you face obstacles that seem impossible to overcome? How do you interpret temporary failures in the context of your long-term vision? If your first reaction is to look for the lesson, find the hidden opportunity, and plan your next strategic move, then you possess the 8th sign. Your resilience isn't simply stubborn endurance, it's intelligent faith. It's the deep certainty that every adversity is polishing your character's diamond, strengthening your determination's muscles, and preparing you to handle levels of success that would be impossible without that previous preparation. 9th sign. Focus on purpose and mission. At the center of all true and lasting wealth beats a heart that goes far beyond the simple desire for material accumulation. Those destined for abundance aren't moved primarily by greed, aren't motivated by envy, aren't driven by the desire to impress others with their wealth. They're guided by something infinitely more powerful, deeper, more sustainable, a purpose that transcends their individual existence, and a mission that benefits all humanity. Solomon understood this truth from the moment he assumed Israel's throne. His purpose wasn't simply to be rich. His mission wasn't only to accumulate treasures. His vision was to build a nation that reflected God's wisdom and justice, create a kingdom that would be a model of prosperity and peace for the entire known world, establish a legacy that would bless future generations. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, Solomon wrote, but then added something deeply revealing. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. Do you understand what this means? Every human being carries within themselves a seed of eternity, an impulse towards something that transcends their own mortality, a desire to create something that endures beyond their earthly existence. Those destined for wealth have learned to align their financial efforts with that seed of eternity God planted in their hearts. Their pursuit of abundance isn't an end in itself, but a means to fulfill a greater mission, to solve more significant problems, to create a more lasting impact on the world. Napoleon Hill discovered exactly the same principle when he analyzed American industry titans. Andrew Carnegie didn't wake up every morning thinking about how much money he could make that day. He woke up thinking about how he could make steel more accessible to build the infrastructure that would transform the United States into a world power. His mission was to democratize industrial progress. Henry Ford didn't simply dream of being rich. His vision was to put an automobile in every American home, freeing families from geographical limitations and giving them access to opportunities that were previously impossible. His purpose was to democratize personal mobility. Thomas Edison didn't invent for money. His mission was to make electricity so cheap that only the rich can afford to use candles. His purpose was to democratize technology to improve the masses' lives. Do you see the pattern? All these men had a mission that went far beyond their personal enrichment. They were focused on solving massive problems, creating value for millions of people, building something that transcended their own lives. And paradoxically, or perhaps as an inevitable result of universal laws, that service orientation brought them financial abundance beyond what they could have imagined. The ninth sign that you're destined for wealth is that you feel a deep calling towards something greater than yourself. You can't explain it completely with logic, but there's a mission beating in your heart, a purpose that keeps you awake at night, a vision that drives you to wake up early every morning. This mission might be related to solving a specific problem you've experienced personally. Perhaps you grew up in poverty and now feel an irresistible calling to create economic opportunities for others in similar situations. Perhaps you experienced an injustice and now your purpose is to establish more equitable systems. Perhaps you overcame a personal difficulty and now your mission is to help others navigate similar challenges. Or perhaps your purpose is broader, creating beauty in the world through art, design, or architecture, expanding human knowledge through research, education, or technology, facilitating meaningful connections between people through platforms, events, or communities, preserving and protecting the planet for future generations through sustainable innovations. What's important isn't exactly what your specific mission is. What's crucial is that you have one. Those destined for true wealth are never working just to work, never building businesses just to build businesses, never pursuing success just for success. There's always a deeper why that drives them. Solomon wrote, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit, but sustainable diligence, diligence that can be maintained for decades, diligence that can overcome any obstacle, can only be fueled by a purpose that goes beyond personal benefit." Do you feel that mission burning within you? That certainty that you're destined to create something that will benefit future generations? That irresistible compulsion to use your talents and resources to solve significant problems in the world? If your answer is yes, then you possess the ninth sign of prosperous destiny. Your future wealth won't simply be a reward for your hard work. It will be the natural result of being aligned with a divine purpose that demands abundant resources to be completely fulfilled. 10th sign, simplicity as a wealth strategy. In our era of artificial complexity, elaborate strategies, and complicated systems that promise instant success, There exists a truth that shines with the clarity of the purest diamond. True wealth is born from simple principles applied consistently over long periods of time. Those destined for abundance aren't those who know 1,000 different strategies, but those who completely master a few fundamental strategies. Solomon, despite all his complex wisdom and profound understanding of the universe's mysteries, reduced prosperity's principles to statements so simple that a child could understand them. Give, and it will be given to you. Whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. All hard work brings a profit. The plans of the diligent lead to abundance. Do you see the beauty of this simplicity? There are no complicated mathematical formulas, no strategies requiring doctorates to understand them, no systems needing advanced technology to implement. They're principles so fundamental, so universal, so timeless that they've worked for 3,000 years and will continue working until the end of time. Better a dry crust with peace and quiet than a house full of feasting with strife, this wise king wrote, revealing that even in material abundance, simplicity in lifestyle is superior to stressful complexity. The truly prosperous aren't those who accumulate complicated possessions, but those who can enjoy genuine wealth with inner peace. Napoleon Hill, after 20 years of studying his era's most successful minds, reached a surprising conclusion. All these men had reduced success to a few fundamental principles they applied religiously. They didn't have hundreds of different strategies. They had 3 or 4 basic principles they executed with absolute mastery. Andrew Carnegie built his empire following a simple strategy: put all your eggs in one basket and watch that basket carefully. While others frantically diversified, he focused intensely on mastering the steel industry. His simplicity of focus gave him clarity of purpose, and that clarity brought him massive abundance. Henry Ford revolutionized world manufacturing with a simple principle: any customer can have a car painted any color so long as it's black. While other competitors offered dozens of models in multiple colors, Ford simplified his operation to a single perfected product. This simplicity allowed him to achieve efficiencies impossible for his more complex competitors. The 10th and final sign that you're destined for wealth is that you've developed what sages call elegance in simplicity. The ability to reduce complex problems to simple solutions, to find the most direct path to any objective, to eliminate everything that isn't essential and focus solely on what truly matters. This simplicity manifests in all areas of your life. In your personal finances, you don't have dozens of complicated investments you don't completely understand. You have a few fundamental investments you've studied deeply and have complete confidence in. In your professional career, you're not chasing 20 different opportunities simultaneously. You're intensely focused on mastering one skill or developing one business that can generate sustainable abundance. In your daily routine, you don't have complicated systems requiring 2 hours of preparation every morning. You have simple but powerful habits you can maintain regardless of external circumstances. In your relationships, you don't try to impress hundreds of people superficially. You cultivate deep connections with a few people who genuinely add value to your life and to whom you can add genuine value. Your simplicity isn't ignorant simplicity, it's sophisticated simplicity. You've studied enough to know what's truly important and what's merely noise. You've experienced enough to distinguish between strategies that work and those that only sound impressive. You've matured enough to choose depth over breadth, mastery over mediocrity. Solomon wrote, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." True wealth requires that childlike simplicity that can see truth without the complicated filters of adult cynicism, that can believe in fundamental principles without needing constant validation from external experts. Have you reached that elegance in simplicity? That clarity that allows you to say no to good opportunities so you can say yes to the best opportunities? That wisdom that allows you to focus intensely on a few fundamental things instead of scattering yourself superficially across many irrelevant things? If you possess this 10th sign, if you've found your path to powerful simplicity, then you've completed the profile of those destined for abundance. Your wealth won't be the result of complicated strategies or clever manipulations. It will be the natural consequence of simple principles applied with consistency, faith, and purpose for enough time that the universe has no choice but to respond with abundance. And here we are at the end of this extraordinary journey through the ancient secrets that connect King Solomon's wisdom with Napoleon Hill's revolutionary discoveries. You've discovered the 10 clear, unmistakable, infallible signs that identify those destined for true abundance. Let me remind you of these transformative signs you've just explored. The burning desire for wisdom that goes beyond simple theoretical knowledge, the abundance mindset that sees opportunities where others see limitations, authentic generosity that sows blessings to harvest multiplication, the discipline and diligence that convert visions into realities, the power of words that create worlds of possibility, sacred respect for time and rest that generates sustainable efficiency, the wisdom of surrounding yourself with people who elevate your potential, resilience that transforms adversity into strength, focus on a purpose that transcends personal benefit, and elegant simplicity that finds power in fundamental principles. These aren't simply desirable characteristics. They aren't mere motivational suggestions. They aren't theoretical concepts to impress in intellectual conversations. These are the distinctive marks, the identifying signals, the precise indicators of those who are aligned with the universal laws of prosperity. The question that resonates in the air right now, the question that can change the course of your financial destiny forever, is this: how many of these signs do you recognize burning within you at this precise moment? How many of these characteristics do you see reflected in your thoughts, your actions, your daily decisions? If you recognize 8, 9, or all 10 signs in your life, then congratulations. You're walking on the royal path to abundance. The universe's forces are already conspiring to manifest the wealth that's aligned with your divine purpose. You just need to continue applying these principles with faith, consistency, and patience, while time works the magic of multiplication. If you recognize 5, 6, or 7 of these signs, then you're on the threshold of an extraordinary financial transformation. You have a solid foundation, but there are specific areas where you can focus your development to accelerate your progress toward prosperity. The seeds are planted, now it's time to water them with intentional action. If you recognize 3, 4, or fewer of these signs, don't be discouraged. Remember that Solomon wasn't born with all his wisdom, and Napoleon Hill didn't begin his research knowing all the answers. These signs can be developed, cultivated, strengthened through conscious decisions and deliberate practice. Your journey toward abundance begins with the first step of recognizing where you are and deciding where you want to go. The transformative truth that both the Bible and Napoleon Hill reveal to us is this: wealth isn't a cosmic accident that happens to a lucky few. Abundance isn't an arbitrary gift the universe distributes capriciously. Prosperity isn't a lottery where some win by pure chance. Wealth is the inevitable consequence of applying specific spiritual and mental laws with faith, discipline, and persistence. It's the natural result of aligning your mind, your heart, your words, and your actions with the principles that govern abundance creation. It's the physical manifestation of a consciousness that has been transformed to operate in harmony with prosperity's frequencies. Solomon knew this when he wrote, "All a person's ways seem pure to them, but motives are weighed by the Lord." But he also knew the solution: commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. Napoleon Hill confirmed it when he declared, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But he also established the conditions with a definite purpose, an organized plan, a trained mind, and the persistence to continue until reaching the objective. Now, my dear viewer, knowledge is in your hands. Ancient wisdom has been revealed. The secrets connecting Solomon's throne with modern magnates' offices have been exposed before your eyes. The 10 signs of prosperous destiny have been engraved in your consciousness. But knowledge without action is simply intellectual entertainment. Wisdom without application is only interesting conversation. Principles without practice are merely powerless theories. The moment of decision has arrived. Are you going to allow this information to fade in your memory, like so many other videos you've watched? Or are you going to make this day the turning point where your financial life took a completely new direction? I invite you, I challenge you, I beg you to take immediate action. Start today cultivating the signs you need to develop. Begin this week applying the principles that resonate most deeply in your soul. Start this month creating the habits that will align you with the universal laws of abundance. And as you embark on this transformative journey, don't forget that you're not alone. Thousands of people around the world are applying these same principles, developing these same signs, walking this same path toward authentic prosperity. That's why I need to ask you something vital. Share this message. Give it to that person in your life you know is destined for something greater. Send it to that friend who's been struggling financially but has the right heart and mentality. Pass it to that family member who needs to remember that abundance is their divine right when they align with the correct laws. And make sure to subscribe to this channel, activate notifications, because this is just the first delivery of a complete series that will explore the deepest secrets of wealth creation from spiritual, mental, and practical perspectives that will change your life forever. In the comments below, share with me which of the 10 signs resonated most deeply with you. Tell me which one you're going to start developing immediately. Let me know how you plan to apply these principles in your specific situation. Your testimony could be the inspiration another person needs to take the first step toward their own financial transformation. Always remember Solomon's words. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. So your abundance will begin when you honor the universal laws that govern prosperity, when you respect the principles that have enriched the wise for millennia, when you align yourself with the divine purpose that has been waiting to manifest through your life. Your time of abundance has arrived. The signs are clear. The path is traced. The principles are revealed. Now, go and convert these ancient secrets into the prosperous reality you deserve, desire, and for which you were created. Wealth is waiting for you. The universe is ready to respond. Your abundant destiny is just one decision away. Are you ready to claim it?